The crash was like a bomb going off, metal crunching, wood splintering, a sound that made my whole street freeze. I bolted outside, heart pounding, just in time to see Linda Carver, our neighborhood's self-crowned HOA dictator, stumbling out of her gleaming Lexus, staring at what used to be her front bumper, now dangling like a broken jaw. My fence? Still standing tall, not a scratch, while her SUV hissed and smoked like it had just lost a bar fight. Neighbors peeked from their porches, some whispering, some outright laughing. And for once, I didn't feel like the guy who'd been pushed around for months. Linda had been treating my yard like her personal highway, plowing through my fence like it was nothing, daring me to do something about it. Well, she finally hit a wall at a rally, and it wasn't luck. Trust me. Want to hear how one fed-up homeowner turned a simple fence into Linda's worst nightmare? Stick around, because this story's got karma written all over it. I moved to Willow Creek thinking I'd found a little piece of heaven-quiet streets, kids on bikes, neighbors who'd wave as they trimmed their hedges. My house wasn't much, just a modest two-bedroom with a yard I pour my heart into. That fence, man, it was my pride, and join out some Home Depot kit, but something I built from scratch, board by board, late nights with a hammer in one hand, a cold one in the other. I'd sanded every plank, painted it this crisp, clean white that practically glowed in the sunlight. It wasn't just a fancy, it was my stake in the ground, my way of saying, this is mine. For a while, life was good. I'd sit on my porch with my dog, Rusty, watching the sunset, sipping coffee, feeling like I'd made it. The yard was neat, the grass trimmed, the fence straight as an arrow. Nobody had a thing to complain about. Until Linda showed up. Linda Carver was the kind of woman who walked around like she owned the whole zip code, late 50s, always in designer shades, driving a Lexus so shiny it could blind you. She wasn't just on the HOA board. She acted like she was the HOA, strutting around with this smirk that said she could make or break you. At first, I didn't think much of her, let her nitpick about mailbox heights or grass length, whatever kept her busy. But then she zeroed in on me. It started small, her slowing down as she drove by, window rolled down, tossing out little jabs. That fence could use a fresh coat, Tom. HOA prefers ivory, not off-white. Or she'd catch me at the mailbox, waving a manicured finger. You sure those posts are regulation spacing? Symmetry matters, you know. I nod, smile, keep the peace, figuring she was just bored. Then she crossed a line. One morning, Rusty's barking woke me up, going nuts in the yard. I grabbed my coffee, shuffled outside, and stopped dead. Me fence was trashed, a whole section leaning like it had been hit by a truck. Deep tire tracks cut through the grass, straight to the broken boards. No storm, no accident, just Linda. Later that day, I saw her pull out of her driveway, that Lexus bouncing over my lawn like it was her personal shortcut. She caught my eye, gave this fake little wave like, "What are you gonna do, huh?" My jaw clenched so hard I thought my teeth would crack. I figured she'd at least apologize, maybe offer to cover the damage. Nope. At the next HOA meeting, she stood up, all prim and proper, and said, "We need to address unsightly property damage in this neighborhood. It's dragging down values." She looked right at me, like I was the problem. I filed a complaint, sent photos, even a grainy video from my phone. The HOA's response? A polite letter saying they'd look into it. A week later, I got a fine $154 fence disrepair. I nearly lost it. She wrecks my property, and I'm the one paying? That's when it hit me. His wasn't just about a fence anymore. This was personal. Linda didn't stop. She made a game of it, plowing through my fence twice a week, sometimes more, laughing into her phone like it was nothing. Every time I fixed ithurs of sawing, painting, sweating, smash it again, like she was daring me to break. I tried talking to her once, caught her unloading groceries, kept my voice calm. "Linda, you're wrecking my fence. You gotta stop." She didn't even look at me, just smirked. "Oh, Tom, it's barely a fence, just some sticks in the dirt." If you want privacy, build something real. Then she tossed in, besides, I'm doing you a favor gives your yard some character. Character? She was turning my life into a circus, and I was the clown. The HOA was no help. Every complaint I filed got me nowhere. Just more fines, more smug looks from Linda. Neighbors started whispering, some pitying me, others joking I should just put up a drive-through sign. The worst came at a family barbecue. Me sister, her kids, my old man all out back, burgers on the grill. Linda's Lexus roared through, boards flying, missing my dad by a few feet. His hand shook, beer spilling everywhere, and I saw fear in his eyes. She didn't stop, just laughed as she sped off. That was it. No more playing nice. I'm not a hothead that don't scream or throw punches, but that night, lying awake, staring at the ceiling, I felt something shift. This wasn't about wood and nails anymore. It was about respect, safety, my family. Linda thought she was untouchable, but she'd miscalculated. I started watching her, noting her routine: yoga at 8, shopping by noon, cruising the neighborhood like a cop looking for trouble. Every time she cut through my yard, I added it to a journal: dates, times, photos. I wasn't just mad, I was building a case. Then I found it buried in the HOA bylaws. Homeowners could reinforce their fences however they wanted, as long as the outside looked the same. It was like finding a loaded gun in a drawer. Linda thought she had me beat, but she'd handed me the key to her downfall. I got to work. Called up an old buddy, Mike, who'd done construction, scoured forums, watched every DIY video I could find. Pine board weren't going to cut it anymore. I needed steel, the kind of post they use for guardrails, sunk deep in concrete. I'd cover them with what would keep the HOA off my back, paint it white, same as always. For flair, I added thorny rose bushes pretty enough to pass inspection, mean enough to make you regret touching them. I worked at night, porch lights off, shovel in hand, Rusty keeping watch. Every creak of a car door made me freeze, but Linda never suspected a thing. I dug holes 4 feet deep, poured concrete, set those steel posts like they were ready for war. The wood went on next, measured to the millimeter, painted to perfection. From the street, it was just my same old fence, nothing to see here. But underneath, a fortress. Those roses, man, they were the cherry on top, red as blood. Thorns like needles woven through the slats. I added 2 tiny cameras, hidden in the bushes, ready to catch every second of Linda's next move. By the time I finished, I was sore, blistered, but grinning like a kid on Christmas. For the first time in months, I wasn't just fixing, I was fighting. Days passed, and I waited, that nervous buzz in my gut like a storm was coming. Every morning, I'd check the fence, expecting to hear her engine. Then one Saturday it happened. I was on my porch, pretending to read, when her garage door rolled up. Out came the Lexus, chrome glinting, Linda behind the wheel, shades on, not a glance my way. She revved the engine, turned sharp, and aimed straight for my fence like she'd done 100 times before. The sound wasn't the usual crack of wood, it was a bone-rattling clang, metal screaming against metal. Her SUV lurched, the front crumpling like tinfoil, airbags popping like gunfire. Those roses tore into her paint, thorns clawing at the doors. Linda screamed, her shades flying off as she stumbled out, arms scratched, hair a mess, staring at her wrecked car like it had betrayed her. Neighbors poured out, phones up, filming like it was the Super Bowl. I walked over, slow, savoring every step. "What the hell did you do?" she shrieked, pointing at me like I'd set her car on fire. I shrugged. "Looks like you underestimated my fence, Linda." The crowd laughed real laughs, not the quiet ones they used to hide. She kicked the fence, expecting it to fall. It didn't. The steel rang like a bell, and she looked like she'd been slapped. Linda tried to spin it, screaming about sabotage, but I was ready. I pulled out a folder: permits, receipts, bylaws highlighted in yellow, and handed it to the HOA president, Ed, who'd shown up looking like he'd rather be anywhere else. Everything's legal. Ed, want to see the footage too? I tapped my phone. Linda's face went white. The neighbors were eating it up, some shouting. You drove into his yard. Lady, what did you expect? She sputtered about lawsuits, but you could see it in her eyes she knew she'd lost. The Lexus sat there, leaking oil, a sad trophy of her arrogance. For once, I wasn't the guy picking up splinters. I was the guy who'd won. It didn't end there. By Monday, videos of the crash were everywhere, group chats, TikTok, even a local blog. Linda's meltdown went viral, set to music in one clip that had me laughing so hard I choked. She tried to play it off, stomping around, snapping at anyone who looked at her, but the neighborhood had turned. People who'd once ducked her gaze now smirked. Her insurance guy came by, shaking his head at the wreckage. Ma'am, you drove into a legal fence. That's not vandalism, that's trespassing. She screamed about conspiracies, but the neighbors piled on, telling him how she'd been terrorizing my yard for months. Her claim? Denied. Her premiums? Through the roof. At the next HOA meeting, she tried to rally, slamming her binder down, calling me a menace. I slid my folder across cameras, bylaws, the works. Ed sighed. Linda, you broke the rules. Repeatedly. They stripped her of her board seat, banned her from ever running again. The room cheered. A month later, a for sale sign went up in her yard. I popped a beer that night, watching her pack, muttering as she slammed boxes into her car. I rebuilt the fence one last time, not because I had to, but because I wanted to. Sanded it smooth, painted it bright, and hung a little plaque where her Lexus met its end. Linda's last ride. Neighbors loved it, snapping pics, sharing it like a badge of honor. For the first time, I wasn't the guy with the busted fence, I was the guy who'd stood up to a bully and won, fair and square. Looking back, it wasn't just about a fence or a car. It was about what happens when someone thinks they're above the rules, above you, above everyone. Linda thought she could roll over me, but all it took was patience, a few steel posts, and her own arrogance to bring her down. So what about you? Ever dealt with a Linda in your life, someone who pushed too far, thought they'd never lose? How'd you handle it? Drop in the comments. Tell me your story. Did you fight back, wait out, or something else? And if you're wondering whether justice always feels this good, hit that subscribe button. There's more where this came from. Trust me, you don't want to miss what's next.